You are listening to an exclusive on PodHub Network. Your city, your podcast.
Welcome to another episode of Back to the Burgh, presented by the PodHub Network. My guest today is someone whose voice you may have heard, but you may have never seen his face. He's the man behind the 5-Star Matchup YouTube channel, and his name is Steve Marucci. Steve, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing well. Small correction, it's Marucci. You said it like the coach, but that's okay. I'm not offended. I'm doing really well, man. Thank you.
I even asked you before we started.
You did, but that's okay. Football fans always want to go with Marucci, and I get why, and it's okay. But yeah, I'm doing well, man. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, man. I just figured I'm trying to be more and more engaged with your channel, but I've just got introduced to it recently.
Cool.
And I'm so intrigued, and I wanted to ask you, like, okay, what's your connection to the Pittsburgh Steelers? Like, who is this guy? How's he such a big fan? So tell us, how did you become a fan of the Pittsburgh Steelers?
Yeah, so that's always the first thing everybody wants to ask, especially like when they find out that I'm not from Pittsburgh and I've never lived in Pittsburgh. So I grew up in Connecticut, and I have a big Italian family, and I was really close with my uncles, two of which in particular, and they're not far off from my age, so I kind of grew up with them almost more like my brothers. And they were just diehard Pittsburgh Steelers fans, and got me into it before I could even walk. I mean, there's no period in my life like where I didn't know that, like, literally the Pittsburgh Steelers are either number 1 or 2 in my priorities in my entire life. Like, it was just ingrained into my, my blood, my whole life. So yeah, it's just a family thing for me. And, once I got a little bit older, like early 10, 12, something like that, I started watching with my uncles every week, like religiously. Once I passed like the bar of like, oh, are you able to like take this seriously enough, and then it became like religion to me. I mean, we had Sunday ticket, and so it's just every Sunday it's, I'm not hanging out with friends, I'm not out, I'm Sunday at 1:00, I'm watching football all day with my uncles, and that's what we're doing. And you just absorb things over time, and that's where all of my sort of knowledge and fandom comes from, is just really embracing that and them and all that. Yeah.
So that's intriguing to me, because growing up around the Pittsburgh area, it's like it's a religion. Like,
yeah,
Pittsburgh Steelers is a religion, and for that religion to be ingrained in someone in Connecticut,
yeah,
that seems kind of foreign.
Well, I mean, I think I think there's a couple of things there. Is that, Connecticut doesn't have a team, for one. I mean, a lot of people there are Patriots fans now, but when I was growing up, before the Brady era, nobody was a fucking Patriots fan. Like, that was not a thing. Like, I've seen that really develop over the last 20 years. And the Steelers just, I mean, it has such a national presence. I mean, I see it on my YouTube channel. I'll get comments from people, a lot of comments from people in Mexico, Australia, all kinds of places that like, you never would think of it, but they're there. And it's because, with people in our sort of age group and stuff, like, I think it's just, they were really good in the 70s. So if you have uncles or parents that were growing up at that time, they were going to gravitate to the best teams. That's why you see so many people all over the country that are Cowboys fans, Dolphins fans, Steelers fans, because back then it's not like you could just decide to be a Tampa Bay Bucks fan and go out and buy a jersey. Like, it was it was like a whole other world back then.
Yeah, absolutely. So you mentioned people around the world being Steelers fans. You being someone from Connecticut, and I assume you've traveled.
Yeah.
What is the best Steelers bar you've ever gone to, if you've gone to a Steelers bar?
Yeah, so like I'm not really like a bar person. I know that's like, I have read about Pittsburgh that, like,
well, that's the chapel. What do you
yeah. I mean, I've always watched at home, man. Like, I've always just, I've had the home set up, and just, like, that's the other part of my fandom, is that, like I was saying, is, it's very much about taking the game and the experience of taking in the game and taking it seriously. That's been a big part of it my whole life. So, the idea of like drinking and stuff during a game, like that was not a thing for me. Even today, like I don't drink during a game. Like occasionally, I started last year during the Duck era. If we were
Yeah.
really struggling, you know, if
Now
there,
that only makes sense.
yeah, if we were like struggling, I'd do like a shot at halftime or some shit, just like, fuck it, let's go, Duck. Like, I did that this week too, actually, so it worked out nicely. But yeah, like I don't know, just that idea of like being really super serious about watching it. So yeah, bars and stuff, it's never been a thing because I like to control the environment. And it's not a knock on people that do it. I like the personal thing. It's very much like a tight knit thing. Like, for the last few years, well, actually last 2 years. So this is a little bit of a tangent, but one of my two uncles that I was really close with, the really like serious diehard one, he actually suddenly passed away last year. That was actually the impetus for me to start the channel, and that's why I started doing this. But it was just like this, like I don't know, I just had to take it so seriously, and so it would be like me and the two uncles and like my girlfriend and like I have one other friend who's like a diehard Steelers fan. His family's originally from Pennsylvania. And it's just like, we'd have this team of like 5 people and everybody's high-fiving each other, getting all hyped up. So yeah, it's just how I grew up. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to agree with like keeping it tight knit now that I'm a little older. Like I used to go to the bars and hang out with all my friends, and we'd watch the game at the bar. But now, I mean, it may be because I don't live close to my friends anymore. But
Yeah, for sure.
I prefer to watch a game in a controlled setting, like you're saying.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's what I'm really trying to create with 5 Star, and I think you've seen it. I think you're in our Discord server, if I'm not
Yes.
mistaken. I'm really just trying to create that vibe that I'm talking about for everyone else, where it's like this, like-minded people. Not. I'm very like the biggest thing for me is I really am just I've tried to be ahead of like keeping toxic people away and things like that. I really hate negativity. It really just drives me nuts. Like even today or yesterday on social media, and you just see all these people complaining, oh, they should have beat the Cowboys by 30 fucking points. I'm like, dude, they're 8-0.
Yeah.
Like, I know it would have been nice if it was a blowout, but also like if you can't enjoy your team being 8-0 after what we've all been through this year in real life, not in football life, then what are you a fan for? Like, I really don't get it. I don't enjoy it. Just have fun, soak it up.
Absolutely. So let's get into the 5 Star matchup now that you just told us about your inspirations, your uncle who tragically passed. I'm
Yeah.
sorry to hear that.
Yeah, thank you.
Before that, had you had, an idea of doing something like this, like a YouTube series or based around the Pittsburgh Steelers?
So I had loose ideas, for the last like probably since like 16 or 17. I'd wanted to, I think probably starting in 17, I was actually downloading all the games and I was cataloging them, and my intention was to make some sort of like highlight reel, but I hadn't really etched out the idea of like a series or anything like that or what it would be. But I think what happened was the end of 2017 was so just fucking soul crushing and awful that I got turned off of that, and it never really happened. And then 2018 was my first year living in the city, so that was like a lot of work because I still had to go because my uncle is so serious. I told you, like, I had to go home and watch the games. Where I'm from in Connecticut is only like an hour and a half away, but I still like I was expected to go home and watch the games with my uncle. So, like football for that year was just like, it was a lot of work for me. I loved it. And also the Steelers just had so much shit going on.
Mm-hmm.
And really a kind of crummy finish to the year and everything. So that just kind of never came to fruition. And then, when he passed away last year, I just kind of had this idea of like, I'm going to drive my girlfriend fucking insane because she doesn't care about like if Cam Sutton practiced on Wednesday. Like, she's a good fan and everything, but I realized that there's like a limit on this. Like I it's not the same as John, where it's like, oh, John, like, I don't know if Tyson Alu is going to be back this week. Like it's just, so I realized I needed that outlet, and that's where I channeled that energy into starting the YouTube channel. And just loose ideas, but just kind of picking up experience and getting more efficient at what I do as a video editor. And then the other thing is just gaining confidence as a, I guess, like performer or, whatever. That's never been my favorite. I'm definitely somebody who prefers to be behind the camera and behind the computer, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I used to be the same way. I was like, I'll stay behind the camera, but then in college, I was forced in front of the camera, and I've gotten kind of used to it.
Well, I think the other thing there too for me is that besides the uncle, that same like a year before that, my creative partner, we did like YouTube, like sketch comedy and stuff before that. Don't go searching for it, anybody who's listening to this. But we would do stuff like that, and I was really proud of that, and I was okay with being on screen and performing and stuff. But my partner was really more of like, he was like I felt comfortable because of him. You know what I mean? And then he actually moved. He lives out in Seattle now. So like it was just this confluence of events that got me to be like, okay, I'm gonna go crazy if I don't find an outlet to talk about the Steelers, and I'm gonna go crazy if I don't find an outlet to make something. And then it just did well. That's really like the key. If nobody had watched it and I didn't get any views, I would have probably bailed on it after a while, but it just kept doing well, and it just keeps forcing me to do more and more and more work. But I can't complain,
Yeah, I mean, if it's something you love, you got to keep doing it, right?
Also, the other thing, as much as I hated it, Duck Hodges was really the reason it started to do well, because there was no Duck Hodges videos. And so I realized that would rank really high in the algorithm. And it did. Like my first video that broke got like 40,000 views or something. And I was like, damn it.
Wow.
I mean, because it was that moment where I was like, I'm so happy that this is successful, but also I just created an eternal amount of work for myself.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, I've noticed with a lot of your work, it's actually, I don't want to talk about that yet.
Okay.
I'm going to backtrack.
Yeah.
I'm going to backtrack first. There are several YouTube channels that do similar things as to what you do, but what I've noticed with yours is that you have the commentary. Is that something you were trying to do to set yourself apart from these other channels?
Yeah. So, well, it is and it isn't. So the commentary I just felt like was necessary because I didn't know how to tell the story of the game. Because that's what I really wanted to do, is like, what I love about football is the ebb and flow of the sport itself. Like, that's why I got in those big, I was really going hard on the Pro Football Focus guy last week who said Roethlisberger was the 16th best. Because like, first of all, fuck off. And second of all, like, I don't think you can distill football down to, a grade play to play. Like you just can't. Like you either have a guy who can get it done for you or you don't. And so, yeah, I just wanted to talk about that sort of like the moments in football, because I think you see highlight shows and they just leave out so much. Like, a 60-yard touchdown catch might be great, and it might be fun to watch. But if it was like in a 18-point, you're already up by 20 points or something, it's not really a meaningful play. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's so I really wanted to talk about that. The commentary just kind of evolved. I really was trying to, I'm not going to lie, I was trying to copy Brett Coleman when I first started. Like I wanted to do like a Steelers specific version of that.
Okay.
And I just quickly realized that I'm a lot better at being silly than I am at analyzing X's and O's. And it's just that I'm not interested in that. And, I don't need people in my comment section being like, oh, actually, that was like cover 3. Like I just, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm way better at just coming up with nicknames for, Eric Ebron and like, that's what I'm way more interested in. So,
yeah. So that leads into the question I was going to ask before. Your commentary, me as a Pittsburgher, it's very like reminiscent of Mike Lang. If you know who Mike Lang is.
I don't, but I'll have to look him up.
Mike Lang is he's the commentator for the Pittsburgh Penguins.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I know who you're talking about. Yeah, I do. I haven't. I am also a Penguins fan. That's the only other Pittsburgh fandom I have. So yeah, I do know who you're talking about. The name didn't ring a bell, but yeah.
Yeah, but like you got these nicknames. You say some of the things you say. It's like, where did he pull that from? It's very Mike Lang-esque. I was going to ask you if that was kind of where you're.
It all just comes again from my uncle who passed away.
Yeah.
Like I channel that energy. He would just come up with, these ridiculous things. Like, the one my friend group always talks about, everybody laughs about, is like Roethlisberger overthrew somebody one time, and I was trying to defend him, because he was always just going in on Roethlisberger, and I was like, man, you watched fucking Neil O'Donnell and all these guys, like why give him a break? And he overthrew some pass, and he goes, Steve, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar couldn't have caught that pass, and I just was like, it's that spirit of just like this ridiculously hyperbolic stuff, and I it's really just stream of consciousness. Like I don't think about that during the week. I might come up with one or two little things just thinking about somebody's name, but really like they just come in. Like my favorite one, I mentioned Eric Ebron. Like I love the Abrontosaurus. I think I'm so proud of that. And that's just, I'm just writing, and I was just like, oh, Ebron, like, because like week one I didn't have anything, and I was like, don't call him LeBron, it's Eric Ebron. I was like, that kind of sucks. And then I just was like, for something triggered like Brontosaurus, and I was like, oh, okay, that's a good one. And you just kind of got to stick with them. And sometimes you'll get feedback from people where it's like, they'll be like, Ebrontosaurus, like flame emojis, and I'm like, okay, I guess that worked,
Yeah, it's like that one's stuck. That's.
But I mean, it's really just me like reacting, at mid 11 o'clock at night after the game, after I've been working on the show, and I'm just like, it just kind of, it's improv mostly. I mean, I write it, but it's really just coming off the top of my brain.
Yeah. So we kind of talked about your community a little earlier.
Sure.
But what do you expect this to ultimately become? Like, do you want it to be something more? Because I mean, being a part of your Discord, it seems like you're wanting consistent feedback and wanting to grow. Where do you want this brand to go?
So I want to be Barstool for nerds. That's what I want to be.
I love it.
Yeah, that's what I want to be. I mean, I just think like, as like a creative person and somebody who went to like, school for like visual media and stuff.
Yeah.
I think that I've often faced the thing of people assume that I wouldn't be like a good or real sports fan because I'm like, whatever I'm like, I'm not like, oh, I'm gonna chug 40 beers and like, fuck you, my fucking guy. Like, I'm like, I like to be a little more like thoughtful and stuff about my fandom. And so, I want to create something that's not like this sort of like stereotypical, like toxic masculinity. And I really just try to embrace all different kinds of people. I mean, some of the people that I have in my community they're people that I'm just like, I don't know how you're a Steelers fan. I don't even, but then I find myself and I'm like, oh, I'm doing the same thing like that people did to me before. So like, whatever, like if you like the Steelers, if you like the black and gold, like I'm here for you, so whatever. And I'm just really trying to build a community. I just want to be a comforting thing, a communal comforting thing for people where we could just talk and, more or less hang out and just have that vibe of, I'm not like a person that just exists in the computer. Like I am a human being, and we can talk about stuff and, but let's not talk about politics or anything. Let's just talk about football and maybe occasionally Penguins, but no, I do have big aspirations though. Honestly, I think, what this limited sample size of the last year has shown me is that there's a hole for this. Like there's an opening for this, I think. And I just want to keep expanding it. Like, I don't want to give the ideas out, but like ultimately, like I think I could expand this to be a thing where there's one of me for every team.
Yeah.
And it takes a really specific skill set. I realize that. So that's why I'm okay saying it, because there really aren't, I'm not like trying to brag. There's not that many people that could like turn this kind of shit around this quickly. So I realize like there's a lift there, but I'm nailing down the process this year of like recording the games in real time and doing what I do and nailing down the process so that like in coming years I could try to expand it. But right now I just really want to focus on the, specifically 5-star matchup in the Steelers. But I don't see any reason it couldn't be something like SB Nation where there's a version for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. So you mentioned the turnaround, and after talking with you through DMs, I realized how much hard work this is in such little time. And I just want to say, That takes a very gifted and patient person to do it. So explain to the listeners and the viewers, what is your work process? Like, what's the workload? What kind of process do you go
Sure.
through to put these videos out?
Okay. So first of all, I think the most important part of that is that I live with the most ridiculously large chip on my shoulder, and I just want to fucking win. Like, I just want to be the best at the thing I'm doing. So it takes me being a little crazy to get that done. But as far as like the workflow process, previously, like last year, I would use I would use Game Pass to capture the footage after the fact.
Mm-hmm.
But that was a real pain in the ass because you're doing it's like a VCR. Like, I'm going through Game Pass and I'm finding, oh, here's where that play was, here's where that play was, and it's just not efficient. So I realized that this year, to like really rank, I needed to get stuff out every Monday.
Mm-hmm.
And so I invested in like a really high end computer I built from scratch over quarantine, and that enables me to like capture everything in real time. So I stream Sunday Ticket and watch it, but my computer's also recording, and I record it,
Nice.
yeah, in real time. And so right after the game, I have, all of it ready to go. I throw it into Premiere, and then just do like a rough cut of, I just start at the beginning and just, what do I want? And I'm kind of like, during watching the games now, like, I'm producing in real time. Like, I'm coming up in my head, like, oh, that was a big play. Like, that was something that mattered. Like, especially like little things, like it's easy to remember where a touchdown or interception is. Like, I'm not going to leave that out.
Yeah.
But like, there'll be like little moments where, I'll realize like, oh, that was like a really big 3rd and 2, and that speaks to that ebb and flow I was talking about, where I think like people don't always think about little plays. And so, yeah, I kind of produce in real time. And then just after the fact, I just go through and I cut out all the stuff that I'm not going to use. And then I'm left with a timeline of maybe like 24 minutes worth of content, because I leave in all the replays and stuff. So I have it there. And then I just start whittling down. And so once I get my little timeline, I'll go back. Then I start at the beginning, and then I write. And so then I'll have the timeline and a Google Doc open, and I'll just, write my little intro, what play I think I'm going to open with, and then just write commentary for every play. Then I record that. Then I put that in, and then I cut the video to fit the audio. Then I do the music. Then I do the graphics, whatever else. And yeah, I mean, like this week was a little bit shitty because the 4:30, it gives me 3 less hours. So that kind of sucks. 1 o'clock games, I'm usually finished. I'm usually able to go to bed by 3.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just because I want to do good. Like, I just want to do a good job. Like, I could get it done quicker if I wanted to, but I just, I don't know. I want it to be good. And I'm okay with like being dead on Monday because I work from home. So it's like, it's not like I have to get up and put pants on and like drive somewhere. Like, I roll out of bed, and like, even if I'm dead, like, I have to talk to coworkers on Skype for half an hour and do a little editing. Like, I can deal with it for 16 weeks, or hopefully this case 21 weeks or more this year. I hope.
Yeah. Well, I think I believe it's 3.7 thousand subscribers.
Something like that. Yeah.
I think we all appreciate your hard work, and we're glad that you do this. And yeah, we definitely appreciate the work you put in. Your content's great, and I look forward to seeing you do more.
I appreciate it, man. It's a lot of work, but it's the most gratifying thing I've ever done in my life. I've been hired for, I've had jobs in the industry for a long time, and, they like pay the bills and everything, but I just don't care.
Yeah.
And like this, like, I'm just so willing to put everything I have into it because of the comments. Like, it's just so cool, to have just like, to put something out there, and like, even when I have if it's not a great start to the analytics or something, like, I still have to take a step back, and I'll be like, man, like, I remember a time when I would literally kill to get 50 views on a video. Like, literally, I would kill. And like, I'll have a half an hour where the video debuts and gets like 400 views or something. And I'm like, oh man, it's like doing less good than like last week or whatever. And I'm like, dude, like shut the fuck up. Like like it's okay. Like it's, so yeah, I appreciate the kind words though, man.
Yeah, we appreciate it. And I'm appreciative of you coming on to the show and being able to open up a little bit. It's awesome to finally get to know the man behind the 5-star matchup.
No, I couldn't appreciate you having me more. It is fun. Like this is the kind of stuff that I want to do, but it doesn't really fit what I'm doing in any capacity. So I don't, I'm not going to I don't want to be that guy on YouTube who gets people to subscribe for content. And then all of a sudden it's like, surprise, I'm doing like a vlog where I'm going to like Walmart, I'm not going to do that. So I appreciate having the opportunity to hop on and talk about stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.